Hello everyone, how are we all? Sure, audio is a little bit balanced here. So we have some channel announcements and some really big news as well. Probably not that big for you, but it will mean a big difference for the way I handle the channel going forward, which should mean actually a massive boost in productivity and in the quality of stuff that I put out in very short order. I'm already noticing the differences already. So you may have noticed, and a lot of you wouldn't have noticed simply because it's not a very interesting topic, but there was something a little bit different about the last segment that was posted. It was just more of the stupid Hogwarts Legacy stuff, which nobody cares about, and I don't blame anybody. But this one was very well edited, and it was not edited in my usual style. The reason for that is because I finally have an actual dedicated editor now, which means I will no longer be editing stream segments. My engagement on stream segments will be preparing for the streams, doing the streams, and that's it. Which means I'm now freed from about 50% of the busy work part of the channel, so I can spend a whole lot more time researching, networking, writing essays, and it's going to be great. So yeah, I'm a little quiet. What do you mean I'm a little quiet? You say I'm a little quiet every single stream, Daedalus. My audio's in the red right now. I'm actually too loud. Let's see here. Yeah, we haven't had porn bots in the chat for a long while, haven't we? I'm not even seeing any right now. All right, well, anyway, so this is what's going to be going on then. We're going to be returning to regular streaming, which will be much easier to handle now that we have the stream segments being managed by Wednesday. Stream VODs will be going onto the archive channel, usually the day or so after they upload, after they stream here. They're going to be unlisted basically as soon as stream ends. So if you want to see the whole VODs, you gotta subscribe to the archive channel. There's a link at the bottom of my channel homepage. That's number one. Number two, yes, and we will now be streaming once again regularly, 3:15 to 6:15, basically every weekday. Weekends are a toss-up whether I'll be streaming or not. Generally, I will not be. Weekends will be off. But we will be streaming from 3 to 6 p.m. PST, more or less every single day for the foreseeable future. And what else is there? Right. Oh, yes. If you appreciate what I do and you want to help support the channel, now that I have an editor, this will save us a ton of time on the busy work stuff, and will also improve the quality of the stream segments tremendously. However, I'm also going to be paying this person. So if you want to help support the channel, I am, at least for the time being, more in need than ever of your support. So I have a Patreon that you can help support the channel on. I highly recommend that over YouTube, simply because YouTube takes a 30% cut of everything, which is awful. That's about it. Oh, and one more thing. We may be starting a weekly segment going forward, in which, just for the hell of it, because why not, I'm about a year overdue from when I was supposed to do this anyways. For about 24 weeks, actually for exactly 24 weeks, we're going to go through, for like an hour or so, one chapter from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules and Beyond Order, until we've dissected the entire thing, and those will all be up as individual segments, and then they will eventually be compiled into a single long super video. So that's going to be hell, but we'll have it. And finally, title of the stream. We're not going to dwell too much on this because we have a couple of things to go through. Not really that much. We're going to watch the Trump speech from today in full. I think it's only like 4 minutes long. And then we're going to go into the Chapman video and analyze that. That's only 10 minutes long. Damn. We might even be able to fit some more in, or Collins or whatever. We'll see. By way of explanation, the Great Political Refractory Period. You might have noticed that politics on YouTube and Twitch are effectively dead. Nobody does it anymore. There's almost no serious communication. The closest we have, horrifically, is Chudlogic and Wick giving a bunch of right-wing losers an audience with a few sort of lower-tier Destiny orbiters. They just kind of slug it out, and that's what passes for political discourse on this platform now. Outside of the communities around people like Dune Mama and Doe, my own community, obviously, a whole bunch of like smaller channels sort of in that orbit that are up and coming, but nothing particularly big. There is nothing going on in terms of online politics. It is a right-wing ferment almost across the board. There is almost nothing there. Because it's very good business, apparently, to tell a bunch of dumb, bigoted bozos exactly what they want to hear, so that they say, "Oh, you are such a bright and intelligent young man. I've been saying this for years." The person who's been saying this for years is somebody nobody should expect to know anything. That's what the game is at this point, and it's not a game we're going to play. So I've been talking to people, and they've been talking to people, and the strategy right now, which seems to be people seem to be catching on to, or cottoning onto, I suppose, is to build tall, as they say in Paradox parlance. We are going to be spending a lot of time building robust connections with smaller channels of slightly smaller than ourselves or about our size. And we are going to be focusing on creating as much of consolidating the audiences of these channels as much as possible for the next short while. Because what will happen in the course of the next few months, give it a few months or a year or whatever, there will be a return to political discourse at a wide scale, because there must be, because once you have an oversaturation of one side, the kingdom, once united, must divide. There will be major points of contention, which will represent cracks into which creative and enterprising left-wing creators will be able to inject themselves. I'm trying to think of a worse, not as bad metaphor, but whatever, that works for now. I apologize if I sound a little bit quiet. I'm a little bit on the sick side, but I'm actually feeling great. Much better than I have in a long while, actually. This is going to be a very, very productive month. And yeah, so this week's going to be a little bit off the cuff. I've got a few things lined up already, but we're going to have a more planned series of engagements and coverage over the next couple of weeks. We are going to get no less than 3 video essays at least this month. Most of them are already done being written. And we're going to be plugging. We're going to be working really hard for the next little while to really build this up. And we already have some pretty cool developments. I'm not entirely certain I'm allowed to talk about them yet, so I'm not going to. But we've made some interesting friends in the last little while. And we are going to be doing some things. So stick around. This month will get interesting. And this channel is going to be improving in a big way, I think. As well as the people we're connected with. Got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's going to be good. All right, so now that we've got the good news out of the way, bad news. So apparently, pink-haired communists are running the world. The free speech warriors are going to save us from ourselves by dictating to us what we are allowed to think and say in public. So former President Trump speaks about education. He's apparently running on a platform of burning the books. We are off to a fantastic start.
Our public schools have been taken over by the radical left maniacs. Here is my plan to save American education, restore power to American parents. First, we will cut...
Have you guys all seen like the massive carts of books they're not allowed to have in school libraries? They have to be slowly vetted through now. It's insane. By people who never read. People who can barely read in all likelihood.
Federal funding for any school or program pushing critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content.
We've gone over this on stream before, and we've gone over his proposals, the commission, such as it is, that he wrote up. What is meant by inappropriate content or sexual content, whatever, is the bare mention of gay or trans people. It's literally just about erasing the capacity, not even erasing the people themselves. That's downstream from that. It's eliminating the capacity of young people to grow up even thinking of these people as anything other than weird aberrations. It will also result in the deaths of a lot of them as they grow up not being able to, or not having the wherewithal to access any help whatsoever for something that causes extreme psychological distress when it is left completely untreated, much less in a societal context that has decided to target them categorically as the social enemy.
Onto our children. We're not going to allow it to happen. Next, I will direct the Department of Justice and Education to open civil rights investigations into any school district that has engaged in race-based discrimination. That includes discrimination against Asian Americans. The Marxism being preached in our schools is also totally hostile to Judeo-Christian teachings, and in many ways it's resembling an established new religion.
There's no Marxism being taught in public schools. What is meant by religion here is, well, I mean, it's kind of fascinating, isn't it? Just how easily the religious right is just hooked onto this lingo, because it actually comes from when you would have new atheists insulting certain types of left-wing or anti-colonial discourse on the grounds that it seemed to be operating in sort of a floaty space, and there was kind of a dogmatism about it in certain circles, or especially online, and so they associated it disparagingly with a religion. The insult is not just to social awareness or social justice advocacy or anti-colonial advocacy or any number of things. The insult is also to Christianity itself, because it is saying this is as stupid as this is as retrograde as this, etc., etc. But Christians seem to be completely happy to jump on board with this characterization of what exactly is being referred to by woke in the first place. I am not entirely clear still. It seems to be I mean, you could almost just characterize it as like big gay in the sense of big tech. There's really no other content there. It's just here's a nebula of things that we associate as being noxious to ourselves, and because they hate everybody, that includes a whole host of things. We're going to characterize this as if it's some kind of dogmatic, irrational institution that's not an institution, but is still an institution that floats between all of our institutions. It doesn't float between all of our institutions. That corporations are saturated by ideologically, but which are only cynically kowtowing to or paying lip service to for the financial benefit of it, which, by the way, doesn't happen because if you at all acknowledge any of these things, if you have a diverse cast in your shows, if you make reference to social problems that are generally the concern of the left or whatever, the hidden majority will not pay for your products, and so we now have a long history of go woke, go broke, apparently, except we are still all cynical, money-grubbing shills, and I'm just not entirely clear what universe we are in anymore.
Can't let that happen. For this reason, my administration will aggressively pursue potential violations of the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause of the Constitution. That's
Well, I mean, at least they're being open about it now.
very simple. Additionally, on day one, we will begin to find and remove the radical zealots and Marxists who have infiltrated the federal Department of Education. And that also includes others, and you know who you are, because we're not going to allow anybody to hurt our children. Joe Biden has given these lunatics
That sounds like targeting trans people in any sort of institutional setting categorically. At least I can't think of who else he would be referring to. But yeah, so he's running off of a platform of threatening the demos. Well done, Donald.
unchecked power. I will have them fired and escorted from the building, and I will tell Congress that any appropriations bill I sign must reaffirm the president's ability to remove defiant employees from the job. It's all about our children. I will veto the sinister effort to weaponize civics education. We will keep men out of women's sports, and we will create a new credentialing body that will be the gold standard anywhere in the world to certify teachers who embrace patriotic values, support our way of life, and understand that their job is not to indoctrinate children, but very simply to educate them. Finally, I will implement.
There is a very... I'm actually going to look into the legal ramifications of this, because it is interesting. It is interesting that he is running on a presidential platform specifically targeting for discrimination an active part of the Democratic body. That's very strange.
Massive funding preferences and favorable treatment for all states and school districts that make the following historic reforms in education. 1, abolish teacher tenure for grades K through 12 so we can remove bad teachers and adopt merit pay to reward good teachers.
Okay, so there will be no teacher with any brain who frankly should be a teacher, because if you're stupid enough to vote for this, when he's basically just told you, we want to be able to fire you at will, if you don't tug the line ideologically that we're setting forth here. This is a stupid platform. See, targeting trans people is cynical, but in the absence of any other coherent policy position that addresses any of the problems that the voting people are facing, it's useful because it spooks a large number of people. Because especially if you're in a cultural setting in which you never encounter an out-and-out trans person, you're still living in the 90s. You've got your exposure to trans people there's the creepy cross-dressing uncle from a 90s like sitcom or whatever. That was a trope for a little while. You don't know people. You don't know them as people. And so all you see is people like this showing creepy adults in child settings or whatever, decontextualized, and you're buying that hook, line, and sinker. That's smart. Playing on that, it's evil, but it's smart. Going after teachers in particular, really stupid. Really stupid. Even if you agree with them, really stupid. Because nobody wants their job to become endangered. There is already a teacher shortage. It's just stupid. Why would you even say this?
We want great teachers in our schools.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah, exactly.
2, drastically cut the bloated number of school administrators, including the costly, divisive, and unnecessary diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucracy. 3, adopt a parental bill of rights that includes complete curriculum transparency and a form of universal school choice. And 4, implement the direct election of school principals by the parents. It's all about the parents for their children. More than anyone else, parents know what their children need. If any principal is not getting the job done, the parents should be able to vote to fire them and select someone who will.
That will not be the case, mind you, if you have any trans affirming or gay affirming or whatever parents in question, because they're clearly child abusers. Because really, the parents know what their children need when the parents are like Trump, you know, famous family man.
This will be the ultimate form of local control. Our country has, frankly, never had anything like it, or let's say for at least the last 50 years. As the saying goes, personnel is policy, and at the end of the day, if we have pink hair...
Personnel is policy. What? Oh, that's a Reagan-era thing. Scott Faulkner, Reagan's director of personnel, said personnel is policy. During the 1980 presidential transition, hard-right conservatives led an internal insurrection against moderate Republicans so fierce it was analogized to the Korean War's Battle of Incheon. It was just as pivotal too. The conservative faction gained control over hiring and was able to set the course of the administration. Top Republicans have continued to aggressively employ these same levers of power. Take the case of okay. I see. So this is signaling. Basically an attitude of a total purge.
Communists teaching our kids, we have a major problem. When I'm president, we will put parents back in charge and give them the final say. We will get back to teaching reading, writing, and math, called arithmetic, and we will give our kids the high-quality, pro-American education they deserve. We spend more per pupil than any nation in the world by double. We're going to keep spending the money, but we're now going to get our money's worth. We're at the end of every list on education, and yet we spend the most. We're going to change it around. We may spend the most
on the military. Okay. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Didn't work out for them in the midterms. Maybe targeting not the education system, but the teachers is going to work somehow. See, because here's the thing, like, he's not just targeting lefty teachers, he's just targeting teachers. So that's stupid. That's just stupid. What we've got here. All right. Well, that's that out of the way. We have a Ryan Chapman video to go through. I hate this guy. I hate this guy so much. What have we got? Okay, so we are looking at the drawing that explains political divides. Here's the drawing, I suppose. Sources, The Righteous Mind, Jonathan Haidt. We are off to a fantastic start. The Oxford Handbook of Political Psychology, okay. Hive Mind by Sarah Rose Kavanaugh. Who is this? Why does that name ring a bell? Sarah Rose Kavanaugh. Psychologist, professor, and senior associate advocate for teaching and learning at Simmons University. If I seem a bit out of breath, it's the pollen's just killing me today. It's coming back early. Good thing global warming isn't real. Yeah, I don't know much about her. So she teaches in the psychology department. Okay. Well, we'll see. Thinking fast, thinking slow, whatever. The spiral of conflict. I haven't heard of this one before. Okay, but it looks like he's front-loading the righteous mind. So this is going to be bullshit. But, without further ado, this is the drawing that explains political divides, apparently. Jesus Christ, that was... That is the worst rabbit I've ever seen. Also, his neck is broken. Ryan, your rabbit is dead.
This is a picture of a duck looking up and to the right.
That's a duck? Okay.
With, I guess, a fat bottom lip. It's a crudely drawn duck.
Yes. Yes, it is, and you should be ashamed of yourself for it. That is a terrible duck. That is the worst duck I've ever seen. Looks like a... Looks like a colon.
But I'm confident you can see it. If you've seen this before, you know there's a twist. This isn't only a
it's in its neck.
duck. It's also a rabbit looking to the left.
That is not a rabbit. In no universe is that a rabbit. It's like a big-nosed goblin with a hunched back and here, hang on, look, I'll see, look, I'll show you what I mean, okay? So, like, see, look, that's what it looks like. It's like an evil little goblin thing.
If you give it a few seconds, you should be able to see the rabbit too. This little duck rabbit is going to help us understand the nature of political divides, and I'm going to spend the rest of the video explaining how that works.
Okay, so political divides. Here's a question. What is this stock footage? Is this supposed to be showing the divide, like different lanes of traffic? Are we doing like some two-row wampum logic here? Or are we just showing a political building? And look...
If you think about the subjects that we're divided over, they're subjects that have a social element to them. So we don't tend to fight over things that are purely physical, like say the properties of water. With purely physical subjects, we tend to be open to evidence, and we tend to converge on a common understanding of that issue. But when you bring in
Hang on, say it again.
open to evidence, and we tend to, with purely physical subjects, we tend to be open to evidence, and we tend to converge on a common understanding of that issue.
My brother in Christ, have you paid attention to what people in Jonathan Haidt's own friend circles are saying with respect to race and IQ, with respect to the climate? With no, we do not. Galileo strongly disagrees.
But when you bring in a social element, the picture can change. Like if I said that ocean levels will rise over time and eventually pose a threat to coastal communities. Even just that bit about rising water levels might have triggered in you a flash of negativity, and you might have started wondering who I am and what I'm getting at. In other words, mental guards in your head started to go up, however subconsciously. And meanwhile, you didn't have mental guards in your head when we were talking about the properties of water or the picture of the duck rabbit.
Well, no, because we're having that over the properties of gases in the atmosphere and the properties of ice as it is affected by the properties of gases in the atmosphere.
Don't worry, I'm not here to change your mind on any particular issue. I'm just here to talk generally about political divides.
I'm just here to ask questions.
So if that did describe you, there's nothing wrong with you. This just seems to be human nature. When we think about social issues, we tend to not...
Hey, anyone who says the word human nature in a video like this is bullshitting you. This is Grade A premium cut bullshit.
Think in an open, exploratory way. And instead we think around our preferences. So our preferences sort of act like a center of gravity, and our thinking is bent according to those preferences. By the way, this
What?
is our preference in an open...
Okay, hang on.
I'm just here to talk generally about political divides. So if that did describe you, there's nothing
Okay,
wrong with
yeah,
you.
Yeah, we heard
This
that.
just seems to be human nature. When we think about social issues, we tend to not think in an open, exploratory way.
When we think about social issues, we tend not to think about them in an open and exploratory way. Okay. you're gonna provide a source for this.
And instead we think around our preferences.
We think around. Okay.
So our preferences sort of act like a center of gravity, and our thinking is bent according to those preferences. By the way, this section might be a little uncomfortable to hear, but I'm trying to explain why we get stuck in this kind of endless fighting over politics, and the answer isn't necessarily a pleasant one to hear. So if we're going to learn about it, we need to be willing to be made a little uncomfortable. Okay,
I'm uncomfortable. What are your sources? Come on.
so our preferences can distort our thinking when we think about social subjects. That's primarily an intuitive process. We make these quick, intuitive judgments about politicians, policies.
Okay, you have a whole lot of music here in the background that sounds like it belongs to like the theme of a smart person in a movie, but you're just saying stuff. There's no citation so far. We are 2 minutes and 30 seconds in. We have made two massively contentious points that no expert would agree with you on unless you're a huckster like Height. You said we do not argue about the physical properties of matter, which is wrong. Some of the major debates in human history have concerned the physical properties of matter. We can't even agree on whether or not the planet's ecosystem is changing. And now you're just declaring that our preferences in some way damnably inflect how we think about politics or whatever. And like, obviously preferences play a role, but this was a sweeping statement that he just made. Let's see. We're approaching the most replayed parts. That'll be interesting. Let's see.
Ideas, even entire sides of the political spectrum. When we look at them or think about them, these things just seem right to us, or they seem wrong to us. They seem appealing, or they seem unappealing. It's like we have these taste buds in our minds that get quick tastes of these issues and tell us how we feel about them. So this is coming from what I believe is the best available research to date, mostly captured in the book, The Righteous Mind.
Yeah, my Jonathan Haidt takedown is going to be it's much needed. I'm gonna prioritize that this week. That's gonna be the first thing.
By Jonathan Haidt. We found that our social and political judgments depend heavily on these quick, intuitive flashes. So these quick, intuitive flashes.
Okay. The first principle of moral psychology is intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second. In support of this principle, I reviewed 6 areas of experimental research demonstrating that brains evaluate instantly and everything. Every definition that he uses is basically fraught and underdetermined and undermotivated. It's just bad. Hang on, wait for the stream to come back. Everyone stay calm. Alright, looks like we're back. Unbelievable. Alright. We're live again? Looks like we are. Alright, let's continue. We'll just move on from here.
Quick, intuitive flashes. So these quick, intuitive flashes shape our preferences on these issues. And then from there...
He's not even going to tell us what these quick, intuitive flashes are. Like, this isn't even an accurate representation of height. This is just bullshit. No, get back there. Shh, stop doing that. Okay.
By Jonathan Haidt. We found that our social and political judgments depend heavily
No, you didn't.
intuitive flashes. So these quick intuitive flashes shape our preferences on these issues. And then from there, our strategic reasoning comes in to collect evidence and convince ourselves that our intuitions got it right.
Our strategic reasoning comes in. You have a little node in your brain. It's it's the little part of your brain that plays that's responsible for playing Crusader Kings 2. That just activates. You get a flash, and now all of a sudden you're playing political chess.
Or as Jonathan Haidt put it, intuitions come first, strategic reasoning second. So unlike
Okay, he puts it, does he justify this? This is why I hate people like Ryan Chapman. Ryan Chapman's entire shtick is this. He's going to find popular, low-tier, entry-level stuff that is sort of a hot button with a particular, highly politicized, very... Actually, there's a line in Hirschman that I quite like that describes it quite well. It also has a certain elementary sophistication and paradoxical quality that carry conviction for those who are in search of instant insights and utter certainties. People like that. And that's all they do. So as people like Ocean Daedalus do, or not Ocean Daedalus, Ocean Keltoid do with respect to like religious studies, where their entire shtick will be they will put on a fake accent and speak of the gods, when in fact all they're doing is reading off Wikipedia articles and making bank doing so. People like Ryan Chapman do this with books. They will deploy absolutely no critical reasoning or analysis of them. They will just regurgitate their statements, devoid of any actual analysis. And that's literally all they do. That's it. That's it. He has done no research. It's questionable whether or not he's even read the book, because he's provided none of the actual reasoning that leads to that conclusion. He just states it.
Physical world, which we tend to think about in an open, unbiased way. With these social issues, our intuitions heavily bias us to perceive these issues in personal, particular ways. So you might already see how this is tying into the duck rabbit, but hold on, because
no, it's not. Like, we people understand the concept that your standpoint impacts how you view things, obviously, but your standpoint is not the sole determiner. Your preferences or whatever is not the sole determiner of how you deal with difficult or complicated or contentious information. That's going to be due to a whole ton of different things, which will include preferences, but those will motivate your commitments. Those will inflect how you like what kinds of other information you are willing to countenance. There may, for instance, be the fact of the matter that maybe the information is being presented to you by somebody with whom you have other contentions, or maybe there is a class disparity between you, and you feel affronted that you are being lectured to about this thing. It's not just preferences concerning the object at hand. That's not how this works. It takes seconds to realize this. Like, you just have to actually think about it and not be a jackass. This is bullshit.
As we're not quite there yet. It turns out that if we want to believe something, our brains essentially search for permission to believe it, which means that if we want to believe something,
What?
to believe something, actually search for permission to believe it.
If we want to believe something, our brains actually search for permission. They actually search for permission to believe it? That's a thing that actually happens. The brain itself, by itself, apart from me, actually does that. See, he's not saying we have a tendency to search for things to justify our beliefs. See, because as a general statement, that's probably true. That's like a commonsensical thing. And then you can have a conversation about, well, do we actually in every case? Is this as prevalent? Am I just self-describing? Whatever. That would be fine, because you can make reference to yourself. I tend, when I see something that counters a belief that is important to me, I will tend to try and seek out arguments very strongly against that thing, so I can hold on to the belief that's important to me. This is actually one of the reasons why having an investment in a belief can actually be a very powerful benefit sometimes, because you are then motivated to actually do really solid research around that, because you actually have a stake in the outcome of this investigation. But when he's talking about the brain doing it, he's doing something very particular. He's not saying that we as human beings, based off of the example of me, myself, and I, or the people that I know, have a tendency, or he's not saying like, you may have noticed the people around you have a tendency to try and like seek out explanations that justify the things that they're attached to, or that that counteract statements that are threatening. Like, for example, maybe you've grown up all of your life with the reassuring notion drilled into your head that God exists and that death is really an illusion or whatever. Suddenly somebody argues, no, God doesn't exist. That can be a very terrifying prospect. You have not come to terms with that possibility. You're going to look very strongly for arguments in favor of there being a God, or what have you. That would be fair. When you're saying the brain does this, though, you are actually making a very... Oh, for God's sake. Did we cut off again? Oh my God, why is this... Why is this in the red again? God damn it, OBS. Got one job to do. This is an OBS thing. The connection is completely strong everywhere else. Thank God we have an editor to clean all this up. Okay, it looks like we're getting stable again. Just wait for it. Here, I'm going to put in ads. It seems to like it when I put in ads. It seems to immediately come back. I think it's YouTube actually throttling. I don't think it's on my end. You can come on after, Sirius. Okay, it looks like we're back. Good. Okay. We're back. From outer space. Okay. Good. Sirius, yes, you can come on afterwards, okay? Alright. Let's finish this thing. What was I saying? Right, sorry. If you're saying that the brain does this, you are making a very contentious statement about physiology. You're not even just talking about, like, human tendencies. You're saying the brain as a specific organ has these particular activities associated with it. That's not the same thing. You can't just say that.
Which means that if we want to believe something, we have low standards of evidence. We can just find one piece of evidence, even
Indeed.
pseudo-evidence, and that's enough to convince ourselves that we got it right. And it's a similar story for things that we don't want to believe. If there's something that we don't want to believe, our brain essentially searches for an escape hatch. We just need to find a single piece of reasoning that gives us permission to not believe it.
You ever, like, hear something just really alien and weird, and you just feel like a pounding ache in your skull just all of a sudden? That's literally your brain trying to find an escape hatch. It literally tries to do that. Like, just think that through in your head for a second. Think about what it means to say that Why are we in the red again? Think about what it means to say that your brain is looking for an escape hatch. What does that mean? Like, think about it. What do you mean your brain's trying to look for an escape hatch? Your brain is not an object that can search for things independently of you. Do we mean there is a process that can be analogized to a search for an escape hatch? Are we simply collapsing the stuff we sort of reflect on ourselves as doing and attribute that to our brain as if it was a separate entity? What are we doing? And he's like, look, I'm not here to convince you of anything. I just want to speak generally. By the way, this is human nature, and this is how the brain works. And this is the reason why for how you think and what you think, etc., etc. And my evidence is I've highlighted like 3 lines from a Jonathan Haidt book. And I've produced none of his reasoning to justify it.
If you're tracking what I'm saying, this means that we have certain subjects where we don't attempt to understand the full thing.
Yes, one of which would be content for YouTube channels when you're a grifter.
And base our beliefs on that, but rather, we selectively look at these subjects in ways that confirm the views that we want to have.
This guy worked this. You know what I hate the most about this? What people like this are, these are people who had a privileged upbringing, and they wanted to be important. Did they do any actual research? Did they do anything useful? Did they do anything interesting in their lives? No, they just really like the idea of being a guru. So they blow a bunch of cash on expensive equipment, stand in front of a wall with some flowers and books that they've never bothered to touch, and they just pontificate, and they act like they're Jesus. It's embarrassing. It's actually embarrassing that somebody would do this and that people would eat it up. I'm less embarrassed for him than I am for the people in the comments who like look at this. I love these kinds of impartial discussions on how we all develop our opinions on things, especially things as divisive as politics. This is why media bias has become such a problem. Like, guys, this guy could just be a random Walmart worker. This could be some random rich tech bro's son. This could be like literally anybody. What we do know is that he's nobody who commands any deference whatsoever, and he's provided zero argumentation in favor of these massively overreaching statements that do absolutely nothing except misinform huge swaths of people about stuff that actual people are doing actual work on.
Some people look at the subject and want to see a duck, so that's what they see. And other people look at that same subject and want to see a rabbit, so that's what they see too. I'm guessing that you were able to freely look at that picture and either see a duck or a rabbit, and that there were no problems there.
I could not honestly see a duck or a rabbit there. I understand that I'm looking at like a 5-year-old's representation of a duck or a rabbit. I can sort of work with that, but dear God, man.
But with social issues, we develop a sort of partisan resistance to seeing certain aspects of subjects. So if we get rid of the duck rabbit, and instead we think about, say, gun control, and I ask you to freely reflect on both sides of the gun control debate, there's a good chance that you'll actually feel resistance in your brain while you try to do it. This actually seems to be a problem that gets worse the more informed you are. As we become more informed, we become more biased because we're more able to recognize partisan cues of the subject, which again means that we engage in motivated reasoning.
What is this? Hang on. This is from the Oxford Handbook. Okay, let's see.
As we become more informed,
Receive, accept, sample, model of public opinion, Seller 1992, is that individuals accept or reject information they receive depending on its relationship to their partisan and ideological predispositions. The more highly informed individuals will be the most biased because they'll be more likely to recognize the partisan cues and information.
we become more biased because we're more able to recognize partisan cues of the subject, which again means that we engage in motivated reasoning, reasoning that's motivated.
The most highly informed individuals are most likely to know their interests and use information optimally in connecting means to ends. Alternatively, the most highly informed are most likely to engage in motivated reasoning and to have distorted beliefs about the state of the world, because motivated people also tend to be motivated reasoners. Research on the effects of information should not simply assume that those who have more knowledge are more enlightened about political issues, The reasoning of highly informed individuals can fall considerably short of the standards of unbiased information processing. I don't know what highly informed individuals means in this context. Knowledge can facilitate motivated reasoning because knowledgeable individuals have readily available reasons for accepting supportive evidence, and rejecting contrary evidence. Therefore, the most informed individuals may not hold optimal preferences if the preferences stem from false beliefs. Degrees of Rationality in Politics, Dennis Chong. Dennis Chong is chair and professor of the Department of Political Science at the University of Southern California. He studies American national politics and has published extensively on issues of decision-making, public opinion, political psychology, and collective action. He's the author of Rational Lives, A Study of Values. He wrote Collective Action in the Civil Rights Movement. Okay, seems fine. Let's actually look at the book, though. I'm a little bit curious. So, if I pull this up, where am I going to look? Sociology. Yeah, here we go. So, boom. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. What happened? There we go. Nope, looks like we're good. Okay, weird. I don't know what I hit, but something turned off. Here we go. Okay. So, Oxford Handbook, Political Psychology, Degrees of Rationality in Politics, Dennis Chong. How long is this thing? About 24 pages. Okay, it's not bad. Let's just peruse this. Rational choice theory is both a normative standard and an empirical model of behavior. As a theory of behavior, it predicts or prescribes how an individual will or should choose from alternative courses of action, given his objectives and beliefs about the instrumental relationship between those alternatives and his goals. The economic version of the theory is often referred to as omniscient rationality because it assumes perfect, unbounded, or substantive rationality. A perfectly rational individual has a complete and coherent set of preferences, gathers an appropriate amount of information depending on the significance of the choice, forms beliefs about the alternatives that reflect the relevant information or evidence needed to make the decision, and chooses the action that is optimally related to his beliefs and goals. The extent to which ordinary citizens behave rationally in politics is an empirical question considered in this chapter. Do people choose actions that are optimally related to their beliefs and goals? Are their preferences coherent, and do their beliefs correspond to the evidence they have gathered? Do individuals seek the proper amount of evidence given their goals and beliefs? As we shall see in studying the political psychology and behavior of citizens, every facet of the rational choice model appears to be violated to some degree. People prefer policies and engage in behavior such as voting that do not further their self-interest. Their preferences are often unstable, inconsistent, and affected by how alternatives are framed. They do not always respond to new information by updating their beliefs and modifying their preferences in accord with their goals. They do not gather enough information to make the optimal choice. Such departures from rational choice, however, raise a paradox. The paradox is that it is irrational for the average citizen to invest much time and effort becoming informed and making political decisions. The economics of information constrain rational choice, because all political preferences and decisions may be compromised by the initial choice of citizens to economize on their effort. Given that substantive rationality depends critically on the optimal use of information to achieve one's goals, can citizens who rationally pay slight attention to politics still make rational political decisions? We would expect the quality of decisions to vary depending on the circumstances of the decision and the decision maker. In discussing the empirical results in these areas of research, we shall see that the major deduction of rational choice theory that citizens do not have an incentive to devote much attention to politics casts a shadow on all of the topics we examine. When individuals are not motivated, they have less knowledge of policies, choices, are less affected by substantive arguments, and more likely to engage in motivated reasoning. A more psychologically realistic model of political decision-making, however, can explain when decisions will deviate to a greater or lesser degree from optimal rational choice. Because decision-making exacts costs and can be improved through practice, incentives, and learning, bounded rationality, with its imperfections, should be regarded as an extension of economic reasoning rather than its contradiction. Finally, we'll discuss how normative standards of decision-making vary and are applied inconsistently across these topics of research. In particular, responsiveness to information is valued in some contexts, but stability of preferences or resistance to information is considered desirable in other instances. I will close with other examples. Okay, so here's the crucial point. And this is where this is where are you? This is where Chapman's bullshitting us. Listen to what he says here.
Worse, the more informed you are. As we become more informed, we become more biased because we're more able to recognize partisan cues of the subject.
We become more biased. Why? Because we are being economical. It's not because there's a direct correlation between being informed and being more biased in a universal sense. It's that when we are talking about people voting and deciding on the optimal course, there is too much information. We are going to quickly zip through things. We're going to look for cues that tell us, okay, this is useful, this isn't. Why? Because the amount of information in the world does not permit us to actually spend all of our time just addressing every single little line individually. Life is too short. Terms are too short. By the time you've actually heard all sides, quote unquote, all 5 gazillion of them, the issue has moved on. The point here is not that highly informed individuals become more biased only in a general sense by dint of being highly informed. The point that they seem to be making here is that highly informed individuals will be more biased in making decisions with respect to policy because they are reading them more efficiently. This is not the kind of bias that is representative of ignorance. This is a bias that is representative of they are able to read more out of less.
Which again means that we engage in motivated reasoning, reasoning that's motivated by what we want to believe, leaving us with distorted beliefs.
See, that he added this in. Motivated reasoning.
Leave the subject. Which again means that we engage in motivated reasoning, reasoning that's motivated by what we want to believe.
That's not what motivated reasoning means. Motivated reasoning means motivated reasoning. Read the rest of this passage. Because motivated people also tend to be motivated reasoners reached on the effects of information should not simply assume that those who have more knowledge are more enlightened about political issues. The reasoning of highly informed individuals can fall considerably short of the standards of unbiased information processing. Knowledge can facilitate motivated reasoning because knowledgeable individuals have readily available reasons for accepting supportive evidence and rejecting contrary evidence. Therefore, the most informed individuals may not hold optimal preferences if preferences stem from false beliefs. It is not what we want to believe, is that we may have existing apparati that are automatically sorting out information that we would actually need to be internalizing to be as optimally informed as possible. But because we form these apparati through being educated, through experience of the world, and through learning how to deal with it efficiently, we can miss things. That can cause us to miss stuff. A perfectly rational process, a perfectly objective process, can nonetheless not be the most apt for a given situation if the primary goal is maximizing our understanding and finding the optimal solution to our problems or whatever.
Leaving us with distorted beliefs. We're also generally not aware of the partiality of our own perspective.
He hasn't read these articles. He hasn't read the book. He hasn't read the article. He doesn't understand what they say. He literally just searched for a line that seemed to confirm what he was parroting from Haidt without understanding Haidt's own reasoning.
Which is a bias that psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls what you see is all there is. Once we believe we have a coherent understanding of something.
Okay, hang on. So look, this is interesting to me. I think this is his copy. I think this is his copy of Thinking Fast and Slow.
Daniel Kahneman calls what you see is all there is.
Okay, what are we looking at here? This looks like an actual page. This looks like an actual page. This, hang on. I guess this, that's a scan of a page. Okay, whatever. We'll not press him on that one. Kahneman, where are you? Wait. It's back here. Okay. Wednesday, edit this out. Urgh.
Once we believe we have a coherent understanding of something, we're biased to believe that we're understanding the full thing, when in reality, there can still be important pieces missing. So for example, if you saw a duck rabbit for the first time and looked at it and saw one of the animals, it probably wouldn't occur to you that there's another animal in the picture. Of the partiality of our own perspectives.
Here we go.
Which is a bias that psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls what you see is all there is. Once we believe we have a coherent understanding of something, we're biased to believe that we're understanding the full thing, when in reality, there can still be important pieces missing. So for example, if you saw a duck rabbit for the first time and looked at it and saw one of the animals, it probably wouldn't occur to you that there's another animal in the picture. Why? Because what you see is all there is. Kahneman thinks that this is a bias that gives us a sort of path. There can still be important pieces missing. So for example, if you saw a duck rabbit for the first time and looked at it and saw one of the animals, it probably wouldn't occur to you that there's another animal in the picture.
Why do you think so? Why do you think so? Like, what would probably happen, presented with an image like this, is there'd be ambiguity. Well, that's kind of weird. Is it a duck or a rabbit? Like, you'd probably do both, because you're not clear as to what it is. Like, if you showed me, like, a sophisticated drawing of a duck, and then look, if you only look at the shadows, you can see sort of a rabbit, that'd be something.
Why? Because what you see is all there is. Kahneman thinks that this is a bias that gives us a sort of path of least resistance towards making coherent sense out of the world. As he wrote, "You will often find that knowing little makes it easier to fit everything you know into a coherent pattern. What you see is all there is facilitates the achievement of coherence and of the cognitive ease that causes us to accept a statement as true."
This is a self-help book. This is not science.
Which is why people that know less about a subject can be more confident than people that know more about a subject.
Okay. Okay, but you were just... First of all, yes, and the irony of this is causing my brain to seek violently for an escape hatch. But what were you just saying? You were misusing the previous article to assert that informed people, more informed people, are more biased. Okay? Which one are you going to choose here? Because these are contrary statements. That's not the statement the previous article was making. The statement was not making that more educated... Sorry, the article was not stating that more informed people, by dint of being more informed, become more biased in a very general sense, i.e. less critical, and less willing to entertain contrary ideas to their own previously held positions. But you tried to characterize it that way. But now you're going to say that people with being less informed are more confident, which is sort of common sense from anybody who's had experience trying to deal with people in their 20s who are trying to become political YouTubers. Because, dear God, I've had some experiences, but like...
Having little information can make it easier to make coherent sense out of the subject. It's easier to make sense out of the duck rabbit if you only know about one of the animals. The second animal adds complexity to the duck rabbit, just as it's easier to make sense out of gun control if you only know one side of the issue. Trying to reconcile both sides of the issue adds complexity.
Well, no, gun control as a policy involves both sides. Like, the negatives directly implied. Like, the opposite of duck isn't rabbit. Seeing a duck in the world does not imply that you have a knowledge of, you don't have an awareness of what would this be if this was so configured as to make the silhouette of a duck. But gun control, it's like you can have a positive or a negative attitude towards it, and you can understand other people having a positive or a negative attitude towards it. That's not complexity. That's just a concept, and it's negative. being compared with each other.
We also tend to be congratulatory towards our own views and derogatory towards views that conflict with ours. We tend to think that we're intelligent and that people who agree with us are intelligent. And we tend to think that people that disagree with us are dumb.
Yes, you're describing yourself and reactionaries very well.
Which is something that's called naive realism. Research there has also shown that we tend to think that our own perspectives are objective. We think we see the world as it really is.
According to the theory of naive realism, Ross and Ward, 1996, individuals tend to assume that other social actors share their own perspectives and subjective experiences of social events. This is due to the fact that individuals also tend to assume that their own perceptions and experiences are not idiosyncratic, but natural, quote-unquote, and objective, quote-unquote. In other words, as they, quote-unquote, really are. Consequently, in encountering different perspectives, social actors tend to assume that these reflect some underlying and inherent bias that stands in the way of others agreeing with their own views. On this basis, human subjects proceed to refute undesirable evidence if they can. I actually couldn't find this book online, so we'll have to take his word for it, I guess.
And we think the people we disagree with are biased. People who see rabbits think they're smart. They think they see the world how it really is. And they think people who see ducks are stupid and biased. And people who see ducks feel the same way right back at the people who see rabbits. And of course the duck rabbit is an analogy. So if you want a real world example, just swap it out for, let's say, differing opinions on the same political candidate. We've now brought ourselves to a point where we have two factions of people looking at the same subjects in different ways, selectively highlighting certain aspects of the subjects while ignoring others in order to come to their own desired conclusions.
Or people aren't condemning Donald Trump because of epistemic barriers from their own perspective. They're condemning Donald Trump because he's targeting an entire member of category of people of the citizenry. And his supporters have total contempt and hate those people, and his detractors care about those people. And it's not a matter of standpoint. It's not that we just can't reason ourselves to being in the heads of the other people. It's that they want to destroy members of their own communities. And the other side wants to preserve them, and that's it. And there's an actual contention there. It's not, oh, why can't the righties and the lefties just get along? Clearly, they just need to understand each other. Maybe they do understand each other. Maybe they understand each other very well. It's just one side is motivated by hate, and one side isn't. Maybe.
Both sides see themselves as right and others as wrong. They see themselves as intelligent and others as stupid. Both sides are unwilling to think outside of their own perspectives. They resist thinking like each other. And then they have to cohabitate.
Okay, well, let's try this for a second. Let's try to think like Donald Trump for a moment, okay? Let's see. What naive reasoning process leads him to think that trans people should be persecuted out of public schools, that shouldn't be allowed to be discussed, and that any educator who has even the slightest positive disposition towards trans, gay, etc., people should be fired from their positions and hounded out of any sort of institutional situation. Let's see. Oh, wait, there isn't one. He knows that a lot of people hate trans people because they've been caricatured in the media very effectively, and he knows that he can bank on those people voting in someone if they persecute those people strongly enough.
To share society together. What I just described is a sketch of our current political landscape. So if the question is, why are we divided? I think the answer is because we're not trying to not be divided.
No, you idiot. It's because democracy is an agonistic process in which people with directly contrary goals are still in the same deliberative process. We're not divided because we're not trying to not be divided. You're already united, thoroughly. You're actually more united than you've almost ever been. Really? Like, you think you're more divided because you've got two very strong sides? The ideal situation is one in which you have thousands of sides. No, you're heavily united. If you're divided, it's because a political party has allowed insurrectionary elements into their ranks that are willing to use violence to usurp the democratic process where it doesn't serve them. That's it. Because you have people running for office who want to specifically target entire parts of the demos for extermination. That's why. It's not because people aren't trying hard enough to get inside each other's shoes. That's not the issue here.
We have all these biases that push us apart from each other, and we're not willing to actively work against them. It's naive to think that one side is entirely right and the other side is entirely wrong. That one side has all the answers and all the evidence, and that the other side is completely ignorant and biased. And of course I'm simplifying by putting this in a binary. In reality, there can be more than two major sides to a subject. The point here is to be willing to think outside of your own perspective. It can't be said that you understand something if you're not willing to do that with an open mind. So hopefully this was helpful to hear. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you next.
No, having an open mind is not a condition to understanding. It depends on what your mind is open to, and your mind is always closed to any number of things at any given time, and that does not mean that there is a negative or positive correlation, rather, between being informed or being educated or whatever, and being generally biased in a catastrophic way or in a detrimental way. What is being pointed to in the political psychology paper that he cites and completely misunderstands is that informed people are going through information via an automated process that is sorting it out for economic reasons on the basis of cues that they are able to perceive because informed at a distance. And sometimes as a result, they miss things. That's what that's referring to. Alright. Fuck this guy. Okay, I'm going to grab some more tea or coffee. Tea or coffee? Tea. I'm going to grab some more tea, and I'm going to put on some Dead Space. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk to Sirius. I'll be right back. Alright, we back? I think we're back. Oh, God. Sorry about that, guys. OBS is being ridiculous today. It was good for a little while. We hadn't had drops until the recent update, and now it's just... it's unreal. Well, in any case. Damn. Well, we're going to bring on Sirius, we're going to chat with him, and we're going to play some Dead Space. And every little thing's going to be alright. There we are. Beautiful. Okay. Let's call up Sirius. Let's turn that volume down a little bit. That's very loud.
Oh, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
I'm playing Dead Space, so I may ask you to just like pause for a sec while I shoot things.
Fine. I'm not gonna be here for too long because I do have other stuff to do tonight. However, there's a couple things that I wanted to say about this video. So first of all, I was saying this in chat, but I honestly think that, you know, Height's book has like many problems, and it's like, especially after the first section, it loses me a lot. But this video was like far worse than that.
Well, that's the thing too. Like Height's book is a mixed bag. It's not as bad as something like by Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad, but it does have a basis in actual like studies.
Yeah. So like what I would say is like so Height's book is in 3 parts. The first part is it has a lot of really interesting things to talk about, and I do think that one of the things that gets touched on, that people make intuitive judgments and then reason about them afterward, tends to be true. Like that seems to be a pretty consistent finding.
Yeah.
However, it for one, I don't think that Height or is it Chapman? Is that his name?
The video.
Yeah,
maker?
the video guy.
Ryan Chapman. Yeah.
Ryan Chapman. So for one, I think that the causality is wrong with Height and Chapman, because it seems to be assumed that that it's people's moral judgments that are driving their political ideology.
Yeah.
But in stuff that I've been looking up more recently and just like reading, it seems like there's a case to be made. It's the opposite, that people's intuitive moral judgments are better predicted by their political views rather than the other way around. So people's political views are causing them to adopt the moral preferences that that Height points to, as opposed to those preferences making them adopt the political views, right?
Yes.
So the study that I have here, I already sent it to you, but I'll send it again just in case. Yeah, you don't have to open it, but I will send it anyway. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the basic what am I trying to say? Right, so I'm just going to read the abstract. So moral foundations theory is employed as a causal explanation of ideology that posits political attitudes are products of moral intuition. Prior theoretical models, however, suggest the opposite causal path. That is, that moral judgments are driven by political beliefs. In both instances, however, extant research has assumed rather than explicitly tested for causality. So do moral intuitions drive political beliefs, or do political beliefs drive moral intuitions? We empirically address this question using data from 2 panel studies and 1 nationally representative study, and find consistent evidence supporting the hypothesis that ideology predicts moral intuitions. The findings have significant implications for MFT, which is moral foundations theory, as a theory of ideology, and also about the consequences of political beliefs for shaping how individuals rationalize what is right and what is wrong. So the upshot of this article is just that they're saying Haidt and Chapman in this case have the causation backward, that people's political beliefs actually inform their moral judgments more than their moral judgments inform their political beliefs. So that's the
Well,
first
it's not
thing
even it's not even like it's more damning than that, really, because it's not even just that they have it backwards, it's that they haven't even actually argued in favor of their position. They've simply assumed this methodologically, which is kind of astonishing given what they're trying to do.
Well, so that's the thing, is that with Haidt, he doesn't assume it. He gives arguments for why he thinks that it's the other way. The arguments are a little bit hard to go into, but basically he says, well, first of all, if you look at if you look at studies of human behavior, then the moral tastes that we have seem to have an evo-psych basis to them. So it seems like therefore those are innate things, or that not innate in the sense that they are in some sense like inside of us, even if they can be influenced. I don't know, because like he has like this he really likes, so in the beginning of the book he was doing a lot of interesting work talking about how early psychologists got things wrong, especially with respect to moral development, specifically because they were studying the wrong populations. Have you ever heard the acronym WEIRD?
No.
So WEIRD means Western hold on. Let me find it. Yeah, it's Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. And this comes from a article and then book called The Weirdest People on Earth. And basically what it's positing is that a lot of psychological research that gets done is done on people who fit these descriptions, people who are Western, who are educated in industrialized societies that are rich and democratic, right? And basically what the argument is that you survey these people and you might come to specific conclusions about human nature or whatever, but then people in weird societies are not very representative of the rest of the world, and that if you do the same experiments in different parts of the world, you get vastly different results. And to the extent that people in weird societies are particularly unrepresentative of the general population. And I think that for one, that's like a really compelling piece of research. There are some things that I might quibble with it, but it's overall like a very interesting thing to posit, right?
Yeah.
But then it seems like he says that, and then he then starts going into like evo-psych and how like our moral intuitions are somewhat innate, and I don't know, man.
He just goes way over the deep end.
Yeah, like maybe, and like if it's especially weird to me because you just had this whole diatribe about how our ways of thinking are not universal, right? But then you start saying that there actually are these underlying universal things that we can tease out. But maybe you're just looking for patterns where there aren't any. Like this was one of the really interesting things that he talked about, is that he started off the book by talking about how Westerners like to systematize things. They like to assume universals. They like to create categories and fit things into those categories, right? And that's like really interesting, right? Because like the weirdest people on earth, it doesn't just happen with like moral experiments. It also happens with perceptual experiments sometimes, where people are better at specific cognitive tasks depending on the culture they were from, because of the way that the culture um, incentivizes people to think, right?
Yeah.
So, you just got done with this whole thing about how, like, the way that we think about things in the West is limited, and it obscures a lot of information, like, and it might be useful for some things but isn't for others. But then he starts doing the exact same kind of thinking for moral reasoning, where he starts like trying to find these universal categories of moral reasoning that people have and fitting observation into those categories and ignoring contextual factors, right? Like, it seems like you would know that that's a limited way of thinking, seeing as you just talked about how it's a limited way of thinking, and then you just make that mistake. It's really strange. It's really, really strange.
I mean, there's a simple explanation for both, which I'm willing to indulge because I don't think either Chapman or Haidt have really done anything to deserve any more at this juncture. Chapman is using these books for fodder and hasn't really bothered to look through the material. It's doubtful if he even acquired the sections for himself. I have no idea. All I do know is that he doesn't demonstrate an understanding of the processes by which either Haidt or Chong, I think is the name of the second article, I can't remember the latter ones, he has no notion as to how they came to their conclusions. He found statements in them and just stated them as if this was like certain science. With respect to Haidt, same deal, frankly. Like, he cites some interesting studies. I think he may have even performed some himself. But he's made some pretty ridiculous assertions in the process, especially in the latter part of the book, as you recall. It's been a hot minute since I've actually gone through that. You're ahead of me. By the way, for anybody confused as to why Sirius and I are suddenly talking about Haidt together, we're actually collaborating a little bit on researching a general takedown of Haidt. He's been much more proactive than I have been. I've been dealing with channel stuff. Yeah. But, like, I think that's really what it is at the end of the day. There's a vested interest on Haidt's part to have, like, a nice, tidy package that can be marketed as, like, here's how you understand X, and that's it. As a lot of popular books tend to do, where they have to try and, like, they have to try to sell themselves as, like, here, we're going to explain life, the universe, and everything in this nice little, easily gift-wrapped package. And that's it. And so it's people like that who end up, like, becoming celebrities because they're the ones who go out of their way to talk to people who don't know any better, precisely because they're the easiest audience to sell their wares to. And people who are more serious just don't. And Ryan Chapman's just doing that at, like, one level down.
Yeah,
maybe more than one level down. I don't want to.
No, it's even worse because, like, honestly, like, at the very least, I appreciate the fact that Haidt did, the first part of his book where he just lays out a very, very general foundation for what he's going to build his argument on. But Haidt takes a lot of that kind of stuff out of context, and it honestly kind of makes it it distorts, like, what Haidt is even saying.
Yeah.
Like, when he was talking about how people can't see both sides of the gun control issue, and and you were talking about how, like, well, one kind of like, on one side you have people reasoning a specific way, but clearly other people are reasoning pretty differently, or rather, it was trans people you were talking about, how some people just hate trans people, and they consider it,
sorry, continue.
Yeah, they consider it disgusting, and they're not, like, reasoning very hard about it, right?
Yeah.
And because Chapman didn't elaborate on that at all, it
no,
comes
see,
across
here's where Haidt would actually be able to weigh in on this a little bit. What he would probably say is they find for whatever reason trans people disgusting, homosexuality disgusting, whatever, and as a result of that, they tend to have like specific innate responses to stuff that is positively disposed to or promoting that kind of thing, and that inflects what kinds of like political parties or whatnot that they align with ultimately, and that would be
Exactly.
yeah,
You're
and
exactly
that would
right.
be that's kind of intuitively obvious because like why would they do otherwise? Um, but he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He tries to suggest that no, it's literally just a benign epistemic thing,
Hmm.
and that's it. They just can't walk in the moccasins of trans people. That's the difficulty. It's like no.
Yeah. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
that's one of the things is that height he inoculates against this by saying that he's not doing a just so story, but he does a just so
Yeah.
story for all of the moral tastes that he talks about. And he has like a specific explanation for why we have a specific moral intuition that we do, and how different political arguments appeal to these different tastes in different ways. And like that, as much as I think this is bad reasoning, it's at least an argument, right? it's
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 something you
something
can
that,
engage with.
yes, it's building something up. It's building up a foundation that I can pick at if I want to. Whereas uh Ryan Chapman is like skipping all of that and just going to the conclusion without any of the preceding groundwork. So this is so that was like the first big thing that I wanted to say. The second big thing though is that one thing that Chapman is right about Haidt saying, and Haidt does this too, is basically that they say that when it comes to taking in new information, we are very bad at changing our minds in response to reasoned argument. Um, that people don't tend to aren't really able to consider all sides. And um, Haidt has actually done some work on this uh with contentious, well, not contentious, but like moral taboos as how I would describe them. So basically what he does is, or what he did was, he had a bunch of like scenarios cooked up where um people had would have strong moral reactions to something, but the people in the story or the characters in the story would not be harmed in any way,
Yeah.
or would say that they had a positive experience. So like the archetypical example is that uh that a brother and a sister go on a family vacation together, and then they decide to have sex with one another while using contraception. Both of them use contraception, and at the end of this like night, they both feel that they have grown from the experience. And what and he tells people this story, and then he asks, well, okay, so what is, why do you think that that was wrong, first of all? And if you do, why do you think it was wrong? And basically what he's trying to demonstrate is that in these studies is that people will come up with reasons that are not relevant to the story.
Yeah.
And eventually they will just get to the point where they feel intuitively that it's very wrong, but that they can't elaborate on why it's wrong. So and then he calls this moral dumbfounding. And at least speaking from my personal experience, I find that this is the case for a lot of things, especially when it comes to things that are gross. And he does do a lot of groundwork with this kind of stuff, how people's disgust responses do
Here's
actually
why
play
yeah.
in.
Here's why I don't like it, because
Mhm.
there's an explanation that he just skirts entirely, and
Yeah.
he does so because it makes the person who is supposedly dumbfounded innocent in the whole thing. Um, what's a more likely, to my mind at least, or at the very least an equally plausible explanation, is not that they are dumbfounded. It's not that it's just that they've just reached a point where they can go no farther towards a critical assessment of why they actually believe a thing they just do. And the explanation for why they just do could be anything, but that's basically it. They just do, therefore they are dumbfounded. Um, the other possibility is they're actually operating in bad faith. They have seen that there is actually not a rational reason for them to allow their disgust to guide them. And they nonetheless are attached in some sense to that disgust and determine that they would rather just hold to it than actually be willing to interrogate a thing if it rubs against their tastes. And crucially, like, that's not dumbfounding. That's a choice.
So I think that in this case that feels more or less like the same thing, though you're not giving them the out that maybe Jonathan is,
Yeah.
right? Or
Well,
Haidt
that's
is.
exactly what it is, though.
Yes.
And I don't think it's not that his explanation or that framing rather is in some sense implausible. It's that I think it's motivatedly generous.
Yeah, so that's what so this is what so there's a couple things. So first of all, he does do a little bit more to motivate that it's just a disgust response that is making people do this. Specifically because he cites some research where people ask similar questions in different experimental conditions with like bad smells or like disgust. Like bad smells was the big one, and what was found in these experiments was that people made harsher judgments when there were bad smells than when there weren't. And it was concluded from that in some way people's feeling of disgust was related to the why they were making harsher judgments. But the other thing is that he uses this basis to basically say that, you know, the people who are holding to these disgust responses, you know, that's actually okay, because that's just like how moral reasoning works in a lot of humans. And, you know, when I first was exposed to Haidt's work, it was not in that context. It was like I read this, like the study on moral dumbfounding, and I was like, wow, people really suck at moral reasoning, huh? Like, we should probably discourage this kind of thinking. We should get people to not hold to their disgust responses so readily. But Haidt just takes it in the way opposite direction. He's like, no. Actually, people's disgust responses are, you know, an important part of moral reasoning. And if you're ignoring them, then you're like doing morality wrong, in fact. And
yeah, that's my principal issue with him. It's not the fact that he's overstating his case, because sometimes people do that, honestly. My issue with him is that he's very clearly pandering to a specific crowd that wants an excuse. They want to have their position in some way rooted into what is defaultly the natural human situation. Because that's like an elevator thing. So it's like, hey guys, this is just natural. What is natural is what is presumably healthy. It's what we're wired for. Therefore, this is good.
Yeah. No, this is one of the things that he talked about. It's like he talked about how doing all this research actually like made him more accepting of people who have bigoted views. Like, and he talks about how he was in India and like how he saw a lot of inequality and like oppression, and you know, and he's like, well, the more time I spent in India, the more I became accustomed to those practices and saw the moral justifications for them. But you know,
that's not how
I feel
that
like
works. Yeah, that's
it
not
seems
moral.
like maybe that's
not you finding moral justifications. That's you becoming numb.
Yeah, or like, you know, you're being enculturated,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're becoming used to it, and you know, even if you're seeing things from their perspective, like the question still remains: is that like really the right?
Now here's the thing too. So there's a bit of like etymological confusion going on here as well, because when we talk about the moral, we could be talking about simply what people are enculturated to, and just that which pertains to that. Because the moral at a certain point, before Kant and Hume, really just refers to, maybe before them, but my history of philosophy is not that good. What we're really talking about is just something equivalent to ethics in the ancient Greek sense, like literally the characters and the customs of a place. And that's it. And it doesn't, talking about the moral in that sense, you are not required to make some kind of universal statement about what is always best, what is always worst, etc., etc. It's literally just descriptive. When he's using it, though, he's not being merely descriptive. He's trying to give a justification for people making universal statements on the basis of disgust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, you can't do that, but he fudges it. He tries to talk about morality as if it can be encompassed simply by again like a description of how people act. But that's not what's at stake when we're having moral disagreements in philosophy or in politics. What's at stake is what ought to be the case.
Exactly.
Wow, OBS is really stuttering. What is going on here?
You're absolutely right, and this is something that I feel like he switches back and forth with. Is that he switches back and forth between the description that people have intuitive moral judgments that are often based on disgust, and the prescription that we should be accepting of that, right?
Yeah,
Because like if you are a moral philosopher, you don't actually need to say that people's moral intuitions are good ones. You can say that people should defy their intuitions. In fact, like like Kant comes to mind, where one of his big things was that he thought that sorry, hold on. Something
here,
is
hang
going
on
on.
just 1 second. Hold that thought. I'm gonna restart OBS because it's like, damn, that is like crazy slow. Is it stuttering for people in chat, or is it just on my end?
It has started. Oh, wait.
It looks like it's... I can't tell if it's stuttering just all over. What'll happen if... I wonder what happens if I turn off Dead Space. I wonder if it's just having trouble processing it all at once. That seems a lot smoother. Yeah, weird. It wasn't doing that yesterday. I'm gonna try relaunching it. I wonder if it's an update to Dead Space that did it. That's really bizarre. Okay, sorry, as you were saying.
Okay, so I think I was talking right. So I think that there's like this big distinction to be made between like what people think is moral, or what morality is in terms of common things that people
Yeah.
say you should do, and what morality should be, what or what it is actually. If you're a moral realist, I'm not, but that's one of the things that, for example, Kant wanted to do, was like ground ethics entirely in practical reason, right? So it, if you're a Kantian, then this might all not be nice moral psychology to learn, but it's not going to change your moral prescriptions, because your moral prescriptions didn't depend on the moral psychology of people uh aligning with what is and isn't moral. Like, you can just say, well, that might be how people think, but that's not how they should think. We should make them think differently, or we
Yeah.
should try to convince them to think differently. And height, like one switches back and forth between saying or implying that this is how people think, and then implying, well, is it really so bad that people think this way? And I do have to go very soon, but I will. There's one more thing I wanted to say, which is that one thing that Height says is that people's intuitions are very stable. That people
Yes.
are very good at ignoring contrary evidence. And Chapman echoed this in his thing, where he was like, well, if you're partisan, then seeing partisan cues makes you unable to digest evidence. But
Are you familiar? Yeah. Are you familiar with Albert Hirschman's The Rhetoric of Reaction?
I'm not.
Give that one a read. It's short, but it's very good. What he's engaging in here is a very common conservative trope in rhetoric, which Chapman calls the thesis of futility. I like not Chapman, Hirschman. I like Hirschman because he gives you like a really convenient language for this. That's actually pretty precise. And what it essentially amounts to is, I sympathize. I sympathize with your goals as like a nice liberal slash lefty slash whatever activist or whatever it is that you are, but it just won't work. Just the nature of the stuff that you're dealing with here, it just doesn't work that way. You feed money into a welfare state. It's only going to encourage idleness, etc., etc. That's the thesis of perversity, where you have the opposite result from an intended policy decision or whatever. Therefore, it's futile. It's simply intransigent. It's simply a thing that we can't do. It's a kind of concern trolling. What Haidt and Chapman are doing, Haidt more so because Chapman's just grifting off of it. What he's doing is he's feeding into that precise rhetorical move, the thesis of futility, where you actually can't make serious social interventions on these things because it's just the way these things, people are just intractable. There's a certain level at which we are simply stuck with the people who believe X, Y, and Z forever. The wretched of the earth are always with us, right? And the result of that is you now have license to treat yourself, if you occupy that position, as if you are simply a given. Your position is not merely a set of ideas and a set of stances that you adopt willfully, that you can be wrong, that you can be blameworthy for. These are now realities that other people have to contend with and have to treat with the same dignity as a fact. Give Hirschman a look. He's really good.
All right. If you, when you get the chance, just
Yes.
send that as a message to me, and I will remember it much more easily. What was I going to say? Right. So, there's a lot more I could say about this book, but because I'm short on time, I wanted to touch on the idea that people form intuitive judgments and then stick to them no matter what. It does not seem to be the case, or at least it seems that Haidt overstates the case, or overstates the extent to which people can't be swayed by facts. So when it comes to something like incest, or like other moral taboos, it seems like that's pretty hard to get people to budge on because of, of various things. And it seems like Haidt just extends that to other things, but it doesn't, when it comes to politics, it doesn't seem like that's the case. So I have a study, where is it? I found it. So this is a forthcoming study. It's going to be published in Nature and Human Behavior. I sent it to you. So,
By the way, for people in the chat who are asking, the book is here. Let me make myself bigger here. The book is The Rhetoric of Reaction by Albert Hirschman. Very, very interesting person if you wiki him. He was not an ivory tower guy. Sorry, as you were saying.
Yeah. So, the long and short of this study is that I'm just going to read the abstract, since that's the easiest thing to do. So, it is widely assumed that party identification and loyalty can distort partisans' information processing, diminishing their receptivity to counterpartisan arguments and evidence. Here, we empirically evaluate this assumption. We test whether American partisans' receptivity to arguments and evidence is diminished by countervailing cues from in-party leaders, Donald Trump or Joe Biden. So this is directly testing one of the things that Chapman was getting at, which is that if we identify partisan cues, then we are less likely to accept new information, right? So keep that in mind. So using a large-scale survey experiment with 24 contemporary policy issues and 48 pervasive messages containing arguments and evidence. Because I ended in the middle of the sentence, I thought it was going somewhere. Right. So they're using a large-scale survey experiment with 24 contemporary policy issues and 48 persuasive messages containing arguments and evidence. Our results are clear and unequivocal. While in-party leader cues influenced partisans' attitudes, often more strongly than the persuasive messages, we found no evidence that the cues diminished partisans' receptivity to the messages, despite them directly contradicting the messages. Rather, persuasive messages and the countervailing leader cues were integrated as independent pieces of information. These results generalized across policy issues, demographic subgroups, and cue environments, and challenge existing assumptions about the extent to which party identification and loyalty distorts partisans' information processing. So this seems this is a very recent study. Again, it's forthcoming. It's literally like it's I believe the study was conducted. It was first published as a preprint in 2021, and now it's forthcoming as a it's a forthcoming piece this year in Nature and Human Behavior.
But
so like this
but
is
hang on. Ryan Chapman had the most up-to-date studies.
yeah,
and he
I
made
know,
that
right?
video 9 months ago. So
Yeah.
uh, I think you have some explaining to do, Sirius.
Yeah.
Go do your thing. I'm
Yeah.
you
But yeah,
stayed
so
longer than you said you were going to.
No, just to summarize though,
Yes.
is that like it seems like, despite the claims of Chapman and Haidt, people when they are confronted with information that disrupts something that they believe, they actually can integrate it,
Yeah.
even when they have partisan cues that directly contradict the thing that they are being told. So, all right, that's it. There's a lot more I could say about Haidt, but I don't want to right now because I have things to do. So I will talk to you later.
Thanks for coming on, Sirius. And by the way, everybody subscribe to Sirius's channel. That's S3RIOS. It's on YouTube.
Hold on, I will just link my channel in the chat.
Or you can just link the channel in the chat.
Wait, where's my... How do I do this? This is... How do I get to my own channel? Wait.
It's the upper right.
Yes, there we go. Here we go. All right, it is now posted. Everybody, go subscribe to me. I'm way better than this Sunday person. I'm just leeching off of him until I can get my own thing going. Then I'm gonna discard him, like like the scum that he is. So. You better jump ship right now to my channel. Yeah. It's where all the hot content is.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Sunday.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Turn our volume up finally. Okay. Or guess. Oh no, we don't need to. What am I doing? Oh, we can leave the volume there, kind of medium. And whoop, whoop. Bring it up here. Whoa, it's like silent. What happened? Oh, of course. I didn't have it selected. All right. Okay. By the way, guys, everybody remember to click the bell, because apparently YouTube's not actually notifying my audience when I'm streaming. And this is like prime streaming time. I should be seeing about 50 more of you. So something's going on. Granted, we've been on a bit of a hiatus, so it's not that surprising, but nonetheless. That's that room, and we want to go in here.
Personal log, Dr. Nicole Brennan. With medication and zero-G therapy, patient Harris is showing improvement. If this continues, there might be hope for the others on Aegis 7. However, Dr. Mercer continues to interfere. He claims Harris's delusions are religiously significant. If I have to make a complaint, I will. I'm not losing my patient over unitology bullshit. Not again.
Tracking rig signal. Dr. Nicole Brennan. Rig location? Inconclusive. Manual rig tracking is available.
Oh shit!
I see. Taking that. Oops. Well, that's disturbing. Text log. Zoe, specimen 426 is ready for harvest. I was about to notify Alvarez to prep for medical leave, but when I checked the database, I saw Ensign Sable has been moved ahead of her. Is that alright? Alvarez has been on the waiting list for 3 months now. I thought arm transplants took priority over cornea. The wise words of Hippocrates, shit rolls downhill. That shit's not rolling downhill. I mean, you gotta give them credit. You know, they're not barbarians in the future. They give their soulless body organ farms pants for some reason. At least I'm assuming they're soulless. I don't know if in universe they're just kind of indifferent to human beings who never wake up. These aren't sanitary showers at all. It is alive!
Daniels isn't answering her rig link. What's your status? Did you find Nicole?
Her office is empty. No sign of her. But I found a shock pad I could use on the barricade. Just need a hydrazine tank.
Hurry, Isaac. I don't like what I'm hearing out there.
I just listened to a Ryan Chapman video. I don't like what I'm hearing out here either. Okay. Oi. Is there a workbench in here? I thought there was a workbench in here. No. Okay. Well, let's save anyways. I don't want to lose that progress. What What are you so happy about? Come on, one more, I think we'll get through. What the hell? What the hell? Oh, you. Hey, it's okay to be fucked up. Exactly. Ooh. Haha. Just gets better and better. Oh, is that all we can do? I guess there's... I would think we need components to upgrade it further. Let's see what we have in here. Yeah, HP's good. I'm playing Resident Evil 2 off stream, just for my own enjoyment. It's actually more tense than this. I like this atmosphere more. But I think it's just, I see. It's just the fact that the game expects you to kill every single thing in a room. You get used to it, you know? Oh, it's one of you. Hang on, slow down. Three, two, one. Haha, like clockwork. Text log. The diagnoses are stacking up as fast as I can file them. Sleep paralysis, hallucinations, nightmares, paranoia. I'm getting patients from all over the ship. No underlying cause is showing up. Environmental analysis, this is Dr. Warwick. No underlying causes found in foodstuffs or radiation levels. I admit I'm at a loss. Mercer says he and Kine are working on a hypothesis, so in the meantime I'm treating the symptoms. I'm seeing some improvement with sensory deprivation treatments in our zero-G therapy pods, but the sheer number of patients we're managing bothers me. Those systems are old and they need an overhaul. With so many pods active, I worry about what might happen if there's a serious power surge down there, but nothing else seems to help. I suppose the odds are low enough. I'd rather take a small calculated risk than have dozens of miners and engineers impaired around heavy machinery. Ugh! That was a good jump scare. That actually was... I'm okay with that. Now you're gonna be out here, aren't you? Because why wouldn't you be? So I guess the level 2 clearance, that'll provide incentive to return here later on. Because unlike the original Dead Space, the ship is actually open-ended.
Entering zero gravity. Exiting vacuum.
Okay.
Exiting zero gravity.
By the way, guys, as a general rule, I take call-ins during streams. So,
Still holding this position. What's happening there?
I found some hydrazine that should work on the barricade. I'm heading back there now.
Be careful with that hydrazine. I'm not losing anyone else.
here, let's see.
Entering zero gravity.
Here, let's look at that. Oof, that is gruesome. You know, I gotta be honest though, like now looking at this up close, not actually quite as real looking as the gore in Resident Evil 2. It's good, but it's not quite there. Resident Evil 2 like really nailed the aesthetics in a way that's really impressive for such an old game. Alright, anything else that's green and flashy here? So are these people all dead? They look like they're just in hyper sleep or whatever.
What the hell? It shut the whole ship. I'll check it out.
Entering vacuum.
God. Took one step out of the captain's nest and Chen, that thing, he almost got me.
You okay?
I trapped him in a damaged escape pod. He's snarling like, this is fucked up. Hurry, Isaac.
Zero gravity.
Oh, you. I know something's gonna pop up here. I know it. I am not a fool. Oh wait, take cover, so not a different room, so I guess we just take cover in here. That glass will protect me from the high explosive meant to destroy the hull of a ship. Okay. What have we got here? Not a lot in the way of credits. What do we have in our inventory? Health. Don't have a lot of health. We could actually probably do with 2 more of those. Okay. Ugh. Just another day at the
Remember,
jam
when
factory.
you reach the morgue, find Captain Mathias' body. Get his rig codes, and the computer's all ours.
He's not looking too good. Ooh. Plasma cutter upgrade. Interesting.
Security clearance required.
Transmit to all personnel. This is Senior Medical Officer Nicole Brennan. Medical is overwhelmed. We need help. Look at his wounds. We can't handle so many trauma cases, and the command crew won't tell us what's happening. Shit. Maybe I have some PHP left.
Where'd my bolt go? I had a spiky on the ground. There we are. Alright, so by the way, this is not classic sociopathic behavior. So the game says of Harris. Harris is asleep after another dose of sedative. He seems literally unable to sleep without chemical aid. Most people succumb to exhaustion after more than 50 hours of waking, regardless of circumstances, not Harris. His bizarre explanation of the events on the colony points to the same paranoia we've seen elsewhere planet-side. His guilt is not in doubt. 2 security officers were present when he took Dr. Schiarello hostage and murdered Nurse Evans, and Harris doesn't deny his actions, but he shows no remorse. In fact, he insists there was no crime. Specifically, that Evans, quote-unquote, wasn't a nurse when he killed her. This is classic sociopathic behavior, but Harris exhibits no other symptoms. That's not sociopathic behavior. He is affable and friendly, able to empathize and offer original opinions. When questioned about Evans' murder, however, he becomes withdrawn and uncommunicative. He claims the explanation is stuck in his mind, and that talking about it mixes up its message. It actually sounds more like schizophrenia. He also undergoes intermittent hallucinatory periods, again similar to those experienced by other colonists. During his long waking periods, Harris exhibits writing behavior on any available surface, claiming, quote, the dreams need to speak, unquote, and that he's attempting to, quote, make it whole again, unquote. What that means I haven't determined yet. Given the complexities of his case, I plan to reach out to my colleagues for more insight.
Security clearance required.
Medical log, Dr. Nicole Brennan. So much for being paranoid. I repurposed this room to run counseling sessions without unitologists interfering. Now it's the only place I feel safe. I recovered a limb after yesterday's attack. Genetically, it's human tissue with bizarre mutations. But it's just a sample. It's not enough to figure out a cure. I need... Wait, where's that report from engineering? Here. The engineers pulled something out of machinery. Limbs missing, torso intact. Okay. Time for a real autopsy.
Loop and transmit to all personnel. This is Senior Medical Officer Nicole Brennan. Medical is overwhelmed. We need help. Look at his wounds. We can't handle so many trauma cases, and the command crew won't tell us what's happening.
Yeah, we need a battery pack. Heard you. Alright, just line yourself up. Yes. Hey, nope. Oh, shoot. Didn't realize it's that short on ammo. Oh, thank you for the $20, Dietrich. Great Chapman video analysis. I didn't know what was wrong with it at the time, but it really felt off, quote-unquote. Like it was self-insulated from criticism. Didn't know about who he based his ideas on, but I'm glad you did. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been off Chapman for a while. I gave him the benefit of the doubt early on, because a lot of, you know, just normies first political science. It happens. Sometimes people just make mistakes, but my read on him is he's an extremely cynical showman type, and I don't think he can be trusted at all. I appreciate the support. That really means a lot right now. Alright, let's see here.
Security request retrieved.
He left me. I woke in the dark with them scratching in the walls. Scratching like rats. And you all locked me in with them. Fuckers. I'll cut them out. I'll cut them out. I'll cut them out.
Lovely. Alright, we got a workbench in here? Nope, that'd be too easy. And we can't open this, can we? No.
Level 2 security clearance
There we
required.
go. Hey Neo, gaming times are for call-ins, just heads up.
Hull breach detected.
Why, thank you. They're done. Oh, I remember this room. I know what's in here. Thank you, kind stranger. That was a dick move, not letting me actually use my controls during that cutscene. It was cool, though. There weren't really any, like, close-up transformation scenes, like in Dead Space 2 in this one.
Isaac, What's your status? Do you have the captain's rig?
Fuck me! Ugh. Transmitting codes now. I saw it, Hammond. A flying one turned the captain's body into another one of those things. The same must have happened to Chen.
God. Maybe the command computer has something. Where's Daniels when you need her? Head back to the security checkpoint. It's safer there. At least I can upgrade your clearance.
Oh, that's oxygen. Isn't this basically Doom but not as cool? What is this impudence? This is Dead Space. This is infinitely superior to Doom.
What the hell's happening?
The computer says the Ishimura's engines are offline. We're on a decaying orbit toward Aegis 7.
Oh god. I have to get to engineering.
There's no time. That tram station's offline. Unless... Here. Head back to the flight deck. I'll guide you from there. If this damage report's right, there's a shortcut to engineering.
He has beautiful eyes in this version of the game. I like how I have one complaint about this version of the game so far, and that's that Isaac walks like he has a slip disc. Like, which is no joke, by the way. Okay, did we go down that way? No, we didn't. What's down here?
Mercer, Sheriff Kite. You were in surgery, so I left you with Warren. He'll be discreet. I just got the latest report from Aegis 7. The situation's worse than Captain Matthias will admit. 40% of the colony's population is now showing symptoms. Depression, hallucinations, more violence. People are dying down there. I know it's linked to the marker somehow, but I just don't have enough data. Mercer, maybe I was wrong. We need answers by any means possible. That patient, Brent Harris, might be our last hope.
Alright, let's see what we got going on in the Discord. Nope, alright. Yeah, I remember when woke was invented because we had a woke party at UVic. And it...
Clearance confirmed.
Aha. And what it referred to was literally just, being aware of... Like, literally just being aware of ongoing historical injustices, and that's it. That's it. Being aware of, like, systemic pressures, things like that. Like, stuff, anybody with half a brain, in fact, it's the same kind of thing that's being invoked when people make, arguments along the perversity thesis, lines against, for example, like, social welfare and whatnot. They're making systemic claims. So when someone says, like, for example, if you put money into welfare, it'll encourage idleness. That's a systemic claim. They're perfectly fine with... Sound is cutting in and out. Is it actually? Is the sound cutting in and out? I don't... It doesn't look like the sound's cutting in and out on my end. Maybe the mic's peaking a little bit. Let's turn it down a tiny bit. How are we now? Is it better? Not on my end? Okay, GrammarCom, you do this every stream. If you have audio troubles, test on a separate device, then tell me. Otherwise, I will check. Okay, sorry. What was I saying? Right. We know that right-wingers and conservatives are perfectly capable of engaging in systemic analyses because they use them all the time. And even intersectional ones. They use them all the time towards their own ends. We know that they can. It's just all of a sudden they don't count because they involve people they don't care about. Okay, we need to buy more of this. In fact, I'm going to blow all my money on that. There we go. It's not audio. The stream audio is cutting in and out like it just stopped and started. I think whatever you did fixed it, though. Oh. Well, then I don't know. That sounds like it's on your end, though, GrammarCom, because nobody else is complaining about it. It's just you. There's like 50 people in chat right now. Where are we going? That way, okay. Ow. Did I just stop on a fire hydrant?
Flight deck tram control. Now arriving at flight deck tram control. Security reporting retrieved.
Hey, Commander Neo, just a heads up, you're writing essays in chat. I'll respond to videos and to video responses, but this chat is all going away because the stream will always be unlisted, and it will always be uploaded afterwards, unedited to the archive channel, so if you're writing it all here and you're not actually having conversations with people, it's all just wasted effort. But if you make content that I can reply to that addresses me, now I'm incentivized
This
to
damage
directly
report says
respond to
there's a
it.
broken cargo lift just beyond the hangar doors. I'll open them now.
Entering zero gravity.
You'll need your thrusters to reach it, but that lift shaft should take you straight down to engineering.
Oh, this is cool. No one yet, huh? Alright, well, I'm gonna hang on to this anyways.
Entering vacuum.
Approaching limits, turn around. What? Oh, I see. I'm digging the Alien Isolation vibes of this. Oh.
Exiting zero gravity.
Still in vacuum though.
Exiting vacuum.
There we go.
Clearance confirmed. Sure thing, Commander Neo. You do that. Organic growth and engineering, Danvers.
Adding this to my maintenance priority request. Maybe something in writing will make them pay attention. That unidentified growth reported elsewhere on the ship has reached engineering. Not even medical knows what the hell this stuff is. It looks like someone threw their guts up all over the walls and smells about the same. It's spreading faster than we can cut it up, which is pretty disgusting in itself. It's already busted the cargo lift and it's getting into the engine spoke. If we can't find a way to stop it soon, it'll be all over the main engine chamber by the day after tomorrow. Meantime, I'm heading to the mining deck. They've got PFM 100s in storage for ice mining and they can spare the fuel. Maybe cauterizing the stuff will do the trick. Just hope it doesn't smell worse when it's on fire. Yeah, the way the corruption looks in this is interesting. It's a little different than it was before. It's almost more conservative and less, like, splattery.
Warning. Orbital position compromised. Correct course immediately.
What's down here? Oh, nice. We've unlocked a tram station. I see.
Lifting station lockdown.
Engineering log. Acting Chief Engineer Jacob Temple reporting. Christ, still can't believe the chief is gone. It's all fallen apart since the captain died. Everyone down here is on their last nerve. We thought the rioting was the worst of it. Until those things came through the vents. Their faces. Fuck, those were my lunch buddies, Liz's friends, old boyfriends. And out of nowhere, the engines are screwed. Primary's laboring, we're hemorrhaging fuel. Fuck if I know why. I'm taking Danvers to the fuel depot to fix it. Gotta keep the team focused or we'll crack. Temple out.
Alright. Well, we're at 3 hours and 13 minutes. I think that's enough for tonight. We will be back same time tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.